Why successful people stay silent. The psychology and strategy behind it. Silence, the true language of power. Have you ever walked into a room and felt the weight of someone's presence even though they said nothing? A silence that wasn't empty, but commanding. That's the kind of power Niccolo Machiavelli understood, the art of not arguing. Every time you step into a debate, you fight on a battlefield not of your choosing. You don't just trade time or logic, you surrender something far more valuable. Your posture, your composure, your invisible leverage, because arguing is submission disguised as resistance. It reveals emotion, cracks in your calm, and worst of all, your ego. Machiavelli knew that true influence doesn't need explanation. It doesn't beg to be understood. It moves silently and pulls others into its orbit without ever letting itself be dragged into theirs. Why refusing to argue isn't weakness, it's strategy. Arguing seems like the domain of reason. But humans aren't led by reason. They're driven by ego, pride, emotion. When you argue, you're admitting that you can be provoked. You're saying, "I need you to understand me," and that is the most obvious weakness to someone who understands power. The more you try to convince someone, the more they resist, not because you're wrong, but because their ego feels threatened. In psychological warfare, silence is a fortress. Arguing is revealing your map. Machiavellian Stoics like Marcus Aurelius understood, power isn't in winning the argument, it's in not needing to argue at all. Silence isn't passivity, it's calculation. When you stay silent in the face of provocation, you're not surrendering, you're holding position. You force the other side to expose themselves, to drown in their own anger, in their need to be right. The one who doesn't react is the one who makes the whole room guess. Unpredictability is power. You reveal no triggers. No one knows what angers you, what sways you, and when they don't know, they fear. You might lose an argument and still retain your image, your aura, your leverage by staying silent. In leadership, business, and life, don't argue, move. A true leader isn't the one who wins every argument. They are the one who doesn't need to explain themselves often. They speak rarely, but when they do, they shift the entire direction. In personal life, the one who stays calm amid chaos isn't submissive, they are in complete emotional control. On social media, today's arena of egos, those who argue with every critic only devalue themselves. The ones who choose silence and act with intention, they don't get distracted. They stay on mission. They don't need the crowd because they're already grounded inside. You don't need to win arguments if you've conquered yourself. The powerful don't need validation. They don't need to be right in front of others because they're already right within themselves. No one can drag you into their emotional storm unless you let them. Power doesn't come from dominating with words. Power comes from not getting swept into someone else's chaos, from remaining still while the world spins out of control. When you don't argue, you can't be read. You become an enigma, and an enigma is the most dangerous kind of power. Silence. The act of the one who has already won. The strong don't need to declare their strength. Just like a lion doesn't need to roar when the herd already trembles, those who truly hold power don't argue to prove a point. When you choose not to react, you leave your opponent lost in uncertainty. They don't know what you're thinking. They start guessing. And within that guessing, fear is born because people fear most what they cannot understand. The weak scream to be heard. The dangerous stay silent. Silence is how you maintain control. You cannot control others, but you can always control yourself. And when you master that, you become a gravitational force. Others orbit you, drawn by the calm strength they lack. You don't speak much. You don't argue back. You don't need to win anyone over, because you've already won the hardest battle, the one against yourself. Silence is the most elegant revenge. When someone insults you, mocks you, attacks you, they crave a reaction, a rebuttal, a burst of anger, a sign of submission, anything as long as you respond. But when you stay silent, they get nothing. No control over your emotions, no satisfaction, no outcome. Your silence kills them slowly with its invisibility. It's a woundless strike they'll never forget. Every major move begins in stillness. Before a true leader acts, he doesn't shout, he watches, he listens, He notes, he calculates, and only when the time is right he moves, saying nothing unnecessary. Most people fail not because they're weak, but because they're too loud before they're ready. They need validation too early. They argue from ego, not from strategy. The winner speaks the least, but every word is a fatal blow. True confidence doesn't argue. The truly confident feel no need to prove anything. They don't need to set the record straight. They don't care about winning every conversation, because truth doesn't need to shout to exist. You're not silent because you have nothing to say. You're silent because you don't need to reveal everything you know. Silence is the mask of those who know too much. The most dangerous person in the room is the one who says nothing. They simply observe, and in silence, they understand everything. The more you speak, the more you reveal. The more you explain, the more you expose your weaknesses. The silent one lets others speak and reveal themselves. No response is the most expensive counterattack. When people attack, insult, or provoke you, they are lighting a fire. They need fuel, and your emotions are that fuel. But when you don't react, their fire dies on its own. They grow frustrated because they can't control you, and they realize you're not even playing the same game. You've already moved on to a higher battlefield. The more powerful you are, the quieter you become. The weak want others to believe they're strong. The strong don't need anyone to know anything. When you stay silent, others are forced to guess who you are. And in their imagination, you're always larger than life. Mystery makes you a legend. Clarity makes you a target. Silence is not weakness, it's a strategy. You're not silent because you have nothing to say. You're silent because you already know everything that needs to be known. In a world of loud, impulsive people, the one who stays quiet controls the game. The louder the room, the more valuable the silence. In a crowd screaming for truth or dominance, the one who says nothing becomes the center of attention. Why? Because they aren't trying to prove anything. They don't need to be right, they need results. And results don't come from noise, they come from perfect timing. The strongest statement is saying nothing. Words can be twisted, emotions can be used against you, but silence cannot be misquoted. When you speak, you open doors. When you're silent, you control which doors remain closed. Control the room without owning it. You don't need the spotlight to own the room. You just need presence, calm, precision. Let others rush to be seen. You observe, you calculate, you wait. And when the moment is right, your one move speaks louder than 1,000 words. Let them think you're absent. That's when you're most dangerous. Disappear from the noise. Withdraw from the crowd. Let them think you're irrelevant, forgotten, harmless. But in the shadows, you're watching, preparing. The blow they never see coming is the one that breaks them.